The biggest names in golf are officially drawing a line in the sand. Right now, a secret coalition of top players is refusing to support the upcoming PGA Tour model. Fans are watching their favorite sport change behind closed doors. The old way of running tournaments is completely gone. Everyone knows a huge shift is happening, but the actual details remain hidden from the public. Golf fans want to know exactly what is at stake. The players who refuse to sign off are not just complaining about minor schedule tweaks. They are fighting for the survival of the game itself. Behind the scenes, the mood inside the locker rooms is deeply fractured. Tour leadership wants to push this upcoming vision forward, no matter the cost. The player directors are pushing back with extreme force. They see a giant trap in the upcoming rules. This situation is not just another boring boardroom argument. If this model goes through without changes, the golf you watch every week will look entirely different. The stakes have never been higher for the future of professional sports. They thought they understood the proposed changes until they read the actual financial rules. Reading those specific numbers changed everything. The top stars immediately realized this plan would hurt their careers and the rest of the field. Now, they are demanding answers before anyone signs a single paper. I think this model breaks the tour, but do you agree the players are overreacting? For the real truth about the PGA Tour, hit that subscribe button right now. Let us look at exactly what is written on that secret document to see why they are so angry. Reading those specific numbers changed everything, but the true horror was hidden in the tournament fields. Tour leadership wants to expand the fields at these elite events, allowing more competitors to face the biggest names. While this sounds great for the regular tour members, the top stars see a giant problem with sharing the spotlight. They absolutely do not want to split the prize money with extra competitors. The proposed model creates a clear two-tier system that separates the rich from the rest. Top competitors get guaranteed spots and huge payouts. Everyone else fights for the remaining scraps. Those schedule changes were bad enough to cause complaints, yet the hidden money rules were about to start an actual war. This separation destroys the unified feel of the PGA Tour that fans have loved for decades, leaving regular members to look at elite events like outsiders. They will know they are playing an entirely different game with completely different rules. The top stars will only care about their own closed circle of wealth. Such a setup creates a highly toxic environment inside the locker room. Golfers will stop trusting each other entirely. Fighting hard for their own freedom, they accidentally put everyone else in extreme danger. Hidden financial details are what truly sparked this rebellion among the touring professionals. Millions of dollars will shift toward the very top of the leaderboard under this upcoming plan. A golfer who misses the cut at a signature event will walk away with almost nothing to show for it. This directly threatens the livelihood of the middle-class competitor. They desperately need those FedEx Cup points and bonus checks to survive the long season. Losing that financial safety net means losing their professional careers. Regular members were terrified for their jobs, so they finally decided to speak up. Maverick McNeely stepped forward to voice these exact concerns as the first of the 11 leaders. He spoke directly to the player directors about the extreme danger of this new schedule. The regular tour members realized they had zero control over their own weeks. They could not pick which events to play. They could not rest when their bodies hurt. This total loss of freedom pushed many stars to the edge. Demanding a simple fix for their schedules, the leadership had an entirely different agenda. Rory McIlroy quickly joined McNeely as the second leader of this rebellion. The Northern Irishman saw the long-term damage this model would cause to the global game. He knew the fans would eventually tune out if the regular tour members felt treated like second-class citizens. Scottie Scheffler became the third name to officially refuse the plan. The world number one understood that his own legacy was tied to a healthy, unified tour. These three superstars formed the initial core, but they knew they needed more voices to force a change. These three superstars formed the initial core, yet they knew they needed more voices to force a change. The leadership ignored these direct complaints. Instead, they focused entirely on the television contracts and the global expansion. They wanted a product that looked perfect on screen, regardless of how the actual golfers felt. This created a giant divide between the people playing the sport and the people selling it. The players started talking in private. They formed small groups in the clubhouses to discuss their next move. Behind closed doors, private clubhouse chats quickly turned into an organized rebellion. Patrick Cantlay became the fourth player to publicly reject the new financial structure. The veteran leader used his position on the policy board to leak the unfair payout details to the rest of the field. Xander Schauffele stepped up as the fifth voice, warning his peers about the physical toll of the expanded fields. He argued that playing 4 days at every signature event would lead to severe injuries. Colin Morikawa joined them as the sixth rebel, focusing on the loss of schedule freedom. He refused to let the executives dictate exactly where he could and could not play. Shane Lowry rounded out the seventh name, bringing the European Tour perspective into the argument. He warned that isolating the top players would destroy the connection with the international fans. 7 of the 11 leaders had now drawn a line, but the final 4 held the real power. The executives listened to their complaints, yet their final response shocked everyone in the room. Instead of offering compromises, the leadership doubled down on the format. They argued that the global market demanded this specific structure. They pointed to the rising costs of running the tournaments. The player directors left that meeting feeling dismissed. They realized the leadership was not going to change the core plan. This realization sparked a new level of anger among the top stars. They knew they had to take drastic action before the season started. Knowing a simple complaint would not work, they prepared a much more aggressive strategy. The strategy involved leveraging their influence with the sponsors. The top players understand that the television networks and the corporate backers want to see the biggest names on the course. If the top stars threatened to skip certain events, the sponsors would panic. This gave the players a hidden amount of power. They started making quiet phone calls to the tournament hosts. They explained how the model would hurt the product on the grass. Sponsors immediately started asking the leadership for urgent answers. Tom Homa became the 8th name to join the revolt, using his massive social media following to hint at the unfair money distribution. Tony Finau stepped in as the 9th leader, rallying the younger players to stand firm against the executives. Russell Henley joined as the 10th voice, bringing a quiet but firm resistance to the policy meetings. Finally, Brian Harman completed the group as the 11th and final leader. All 11 names were now officially united, ready to deliver their final ultimatum. This behind-the-scenes pressure created a giant headache for the executives. They thought they had total control over the future direction of the sport. Suddenly, they realized the golfers held the real keys to the kingdom. The players were not just asking for better conditions. They were actively threatening the business model. The leadership had to call another emergency meeting. This time, the stakes were much higher for everyone involved. Supposed to be a simple formality, the second meeting turned into the most important day in tour history. This is where the real story finally comes to light, and the full truth is revealed. The player directors walked into that room with a unified front. They delivered a clear and final message to the executives. They officially refused to back the new plan in its current form. They demanded immediate changes to the financial distribution. They wanted a guaranteed minimum payout for anyone who made the weekend cut. They also demanded the right to choose their own schedules for at least half the year. Most importantly, they forced the leadership to cancel the 36-hole cut mandate for the signature events. The executives finally understood they had lost the room. Forced to make a choice right then, their final decision changed everything. They agreed to pause the rollout of the two-tier system. They promised to rewrite the financial model with direct input from the player directors. The top stars won this specific battle. They protected the middle class of the tour and kept their schedule freedom. However, this victory came with a giant warning for the future. The relationship between the players and the leadership is permanently broken. The trust is gone. This broken trust means every future decision will be a fight. The golfers now know the leadership will prioritize television money over their well-being. The leadership knows the players will use their sponsor leverage to block any unwanted changes. We are entering a new era of constant negotiation. The fans will see this play out every single week. You will notice the top stars managing their energy differently. You will see the regular members playing with more confidence, knowing their paychecks are protected. This new era brings its own unique set of problems for the people watching at home. The constant fighting behind the scenes creates a distracting noise around the actual golf. Fans tune in to see amazing athletic feats, not to hear about boardroom arguments. The media will focus heavily on these conflicts instead of the actual tournament results. The players have to work twice as hard to give the fans a great show. They have to prove that the sport is still healthy and exciting. This puts a mental burden on the competitors. Carrying a heavy mental burden, the physical toll of the modern schedule is even worse. Even with the schedule freedom, the physical demands of the sport are at an all-time high. The golfers are hitting the ball further than ever before. The courses are getting longer and more difficult. The travel schedule remains exhausting. The players are constantly flying across different time zones. This leads to more injuries and more withdrawals. The fans might feel frustrated when their favorite golfer pulls out on a Friday. They need to understand the extreme physical cost of this game. Understanding that physical cost changes how you watch the weekend rounds. When you watch the final round on a Sunday, you are watching athletes push their bodies to the limit. Every single shot requires immense physical and mental energy. The players who refuse to back bad plans are simply trying to protect their careers. They want to play at the highest level for as long as possible. This ongoing fight is a good thing for the fans. It ensures the best players stay healthy and competitive. It keeps the sport honest and focused on the actual golf. The future of the tour depends on finding a real balance. The leadership must respect the players, and the players must deliver for the fans. This recent rebellion proves the golfers will not just accept bad deals, they will fight for the soul of the sport. As a fan, you can enjoy the game knowing the competitors are looking out for each other. The drama will continue, yet the golf will remain incredibly special. The corporate sponsors sitting in the luxury boxes suddenly realized their investment was at risk. These companies pay millions of dollars to have their logos placed next to the biggest stars in the world. They do not pay that money just to watch players argue about schedule changes. They pay for global visibility and positive brand association. When the top 11 players started hinting at a boycott, the sponsor representatives immediately picked up their phones. They called the PGA Tour headquarters to demand an explanation. The executives tried to calm them down with empty promises about future growth. Corporate backers only care about one thing, and it is not the feelings of the executives. The sponsors made it very clear that they would not fund a fractured product. If the top stars were not happy, the viewers would not watch. If the viewers did not watch, the sponsors would pull their funding. This simple economic reality put the tour leadership in a very difficult position. They could no longer just dictate terms from the top down. This financial pressure forced the leadership to call the player directors back into the room. The atmosphere was no longer about grand visions for the future of golf. It was entirely about keeping the lights on and the sponsors happy. The 11 leaders sat across the table from the executives, knowing they held all the leverage. They did not need to yell or make dramatic speeches. They simply pointed to the financial models and refused to sign. Money talks louder than any boardroom presentation, and the sponsors were ready to walk away. The executives finally realized that their grand global expansion plans meant nothing without the actual golfers on the course. They had to compromise, or they would lose the very product they were trying to sell. While the executives scrambled to fix the financial models, the everyday golf fans were watching the mess unfold on their screens. The fans who buy the tickets and pay for the streaming services are the lifeblood of the sport. They do not care about the intricate details of the two-tier system or the 36-hole cut rules. They just want to see their favorite players competing at the highest level. When the news broke that the top stars were unhappy, the fan forums exploded with anger. Television ratings tell a brutal story that the leadership can no longer ignore. The streaming platform saw a noticeable drop in subscriber engagement during the weeks of the controversy. People were canceling their packages because they felt disconnected from the players they used to cheer for. The social media metrics showed a massive drop in positive engagement during the week of the announcement. People were not sharing highlights of amazing shots on the final 9 holes. They were sharing screenshots of the leaked financial documents and arguing in the comments. This toxic online environment started to bleed into the actual tournaments. The players could feel the negative energy from the crowds when they walked up to the first tee. Viewers are changing the channel when the drama overshadows the actual golf. The tour leadership had to launch a massive public relations campaign just to convince people that the sport was not falling apart. They spent millions trying to fix an image that the players themselves were trying to protect. This negative environment has a direct impact on the people who will keep the sport alive in the future. The young kids who grow up watching the PGA Tour look at these players as absolute heroes. They buy the replica clubs and wear the same hats as their favorite professionals. When those heroes look miserable and frustrated on television, the kids notice. The magic of watching a perfect drive down the fairway gets replaced by the reality of a stressful, broken system. Young kids watching at home are starting to notice the cracks in their favorite sport. The junior golf program saw a slight dip in registrations during the height of the controversy. Parents were hesitant to invest time and money into a sport that looked so unstable on national television. The player directors understood this better than anyone else. They knew their legacy was not just about the trophies in their cabinets. It was about inspiring the next generation to pick up a golf club. This shared responsibility is what finally brought the 11 leaders to a unanimous decision. They realized they could not just fight for their own paychecks. They had to fight for the soul of the game. Future generations of fans demand authenticity, not just a polished corporate product. They knew that if they lost the kids, they lost the entire future of professional golf. This realization gave them the final push they needed to stand firm against the executives. Armed with this moral clarity, the 11 players delivered their final stance to the leadership. They would accept the new global schedule, but only if the financial distribution was completely rewritten. The middle-class competitors needed a guaranteed safety net, and the top stars needed full control over their own rest weeks. The executives looked at the demands and realized they had absolutely no other choice. The sponsors were threatening to leave, and the fans were turning away. Neither side wanted to blink first, but the calendar was running out of time. The season opener was only weeks away, and they still did not have a finalized rulebook. The pressure of the ticking clock finally broke the stubbornness of the tour management. In the end, the leadership signed the revised agreement. The two-tier system was officially scrapped, and the 36-hole cut mandate was removed from the signature events. The 11 players got their victory, but it was a hard-fought battle that left everyone exhausted. The trust between the tour management and the competitors is permanently damaged. Every single decision from this point forward will be met with extreme suspicion and heavy negotiation. Both sides signed the final compromise, yet the scars of this battle will remain forever. The players will never forget how quickly the leadership tried to change the rules without their input. The executives will never forget how easily the players brought the entire business model to a halt. The sports media immediately started analyzing the long-term impact of this historic rebellion. Pundits and analysts argued that this was the exact moment the players finally took control of their own destiny. For decades, the tour leadership held all the power, and the players just showed up to play golf. Now, the competitors have proven they can organize, leverage their sponsors, and force a massive change. This shift in power dynamics will define the sport for the next 20 years. Power has permanently shifted away from the boardroom and directly onto the fairways. The players now know they have the ability to shape their own future, and they will not hesitate to use it again if necessary. The players might have won the boardroom fight, but the people carrying their bags felt the impact immediately. Caddies rely heavily on the bonus structures tied to those signature events. When the original plan threatened to cut the middle-class payouts, the caddies were the first to panic. They make their living from the weekly checks of the guys who finish in 30th place. While the superstars fought for the soul of the tour, the caddies were quietly calculating their own financial survival. Many caddies started looking for backup jobs or preparing for a much leaner year. The players knew their loyalty depended on fixing this exact issue. During the final negotiations, the 11 leaders made sure the caddy compensation was locked in. They refused to sign the final paper until the bagmen were completely protected. This move solidified the bond between the golfers and their teams. Securing the bagmen's paychecks turned a simple player rebellion into a complete locker room victory. The caddies now know their bosses will fight for them. This unity makes the entire traveling circus much stronger against future executive overreach. The guys on the bag will now push their players even harder on the course. Winning the locker room was only half the battle for the 11 leaders. The tournament directors at iconic courses were quietly fuming about the schedule changes. Hosts like Pebble Beach and TPC Sawgrass pay massive fees to host the elite events. They expected the top stars to show up every single year to drive ticket sales. Hosts at iconic courses realized their massive financial investments were suddenly at risk without a guaranteed star lineup. When the players threatened to skip events under the old proposal, the hosts panicked. They started calling the commissioners directly to complain about the broken promises. The executives had to assure them that the revised agreement kept the top names locked in. Keeping the iconic courses happy required a huge compromise on the final broadcast schedule. The television networks also demanded more consistent ratings from the start to finish. They did not want a watered-down product on Thursday mornings. The final deal ensured that the signature events remained the absolute crown jewels of the broadcast calendar. The fans tuning in on Sunday afternoons will still see the best players in the world fighting for the biggest trophies. This entire ordeal proves that the sport is bigger than any single executive or corporate sponsor. The game belongs to the people who swing the clubs and the fans who buy the tickets. The 11 players who stood up will be remembered as the ones who saved the tour from itself. Protecting the actual game requires constant vigilance from everyone involved in the sport. The fans should feel proud that their favorite athletes refused to sell out the integrity of the competition. Golf will remain a beautiful, fair, and highly competitive sport for decades to come. Every single tee shot from now on carries the weight of this historic victory. As the season moves forward, the true test of this new agreement will be seen on the course. The players will step up to the first tee with a renewed sense of purpose. They know they fought for their careers, their livelihoods, and the future of the game. The fans will watch with a renewed sense of excitement, knowing the sport is in the hands of the people who actually play it. The drama might continue, but the foundation is finally secure. Ultimately, the real battle for the future of golf has only just begun. Thank you for watching and understanding the real story behind the headlines.